When we begin to talk about prostate wellness, most people expect to hear about tests, medications, or procedures. What often surprises them is that one of the most powerful tools for protecting and strengthening the prostate is not found in a prescription bottle. It's found in the kitchen. The foods you choose every single day, the way you fuel your body, are among the most decisive factors in determining whether your prostate thrives or struggles. And this is not just about science. It's about a philosophy of health that sees food as the first and most important form of medicine. Let's take tomatoes, for example. They seem so simple, so ordinary, and yet they are one of the richest sources of lycopene, a compound shown to reduce the risk of prostate enlargement and even lower the likelihood of certain cancers. The brilliance here lies not only in the nutrient itself, but in how nature delivers it, within a vibrant red fruit that has been part of the human diet for centuries. When you consume tomatoes, especially cooked in olive oil, you're not just eating, you're arming your body with an ancient defense system. This is what I mean when I say food is more than calories. It's information, it's instruction, it's communication with your cells. Now consider cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and kale. These vegetables contain unique compounds called sulforaphanes, which activate the body's detoxification pathways. Why does that matter for the prostate? Because toxins, pollutants, and excess hormones can create an environment where inflammation festers, and inflammation is the silent saboteur of prostate health. When you eat broccoli, you're not simply filling your stomach, you're engaging your body's natural chemistry to clean house, reduce stress on your cells, and support the very gland that so many men neglect until trouble arises. And then there are healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids found in salmon, flax seeds, and walnuts. Our modern diet is saturated with processed oils and omega-6 fats that drive inflammation. The prostate is exquisitely sensitive to this imbalance. Omega-3s, by contrast, act like a soothing balm, calming inflammatory responses and keeping cellular communication in balance. The lesson here is profound. What we often label as just food has the power to shift the trajectory of disease and wellness, silently sculpting the health of our bodies over years and decades. Philosophically, I think this asks us to redefine the way we view eating. Too often, food is seen as indulgence, as comfort, or as something to get through quickly in a busy day. But what if we saw every plate as an investment, every bite as a vote for or against our future vitality? The prostate, like every organ, responds to the stories we tell it through food. Are we telling it a story of nourishment, of balance, of care? Or are we telling it a story of neglect, convenience, and excess? That psychological shift from mindless consumption to mindful nourishment can be transformative. Let me add this, it is not about perfection. No one is suggesting that you must live on kale salads and tomato juice forever. Balance is key. A diet rich in whole foods, colorful plants, clean proteins, and healthy fats, while minimizing processed, fried, and sugary options, creates an environment where the prostate can flourish. Even small, consistent changes ripple out into profound benefits over time. Choosing water instead of soda, adding a serving of vegetables to dinner, swapping processed meat for grilled fish. These decisions, repeated daily, compound into health that can last a lifetime. And there is another layer we often forget, the communal and emotional aspect of eating. Sharing meals with loved ones, slowing down to savor flavors, and respecting the ritual of eating all reduce stress. Stress itself is a biological disruptor of prostate health, altering hormones and fueling inflammation. So even the act of being present with food, enjoying it in community, and aligning it with gratitude has tangible effects on the body. Food, then, is not only biological nourishment, but also psychological medicine. The great irony is that men often ignore their prostate until something goes wrong. Difficulty urinating, interrupted sleep, or worse, a diagnosis that demands urgent attention. But the truth is that prostate care starts decades earlier in the choices made at the dinner table. We don't wait for the engine light in our car to start thinking about oil changes and maintenance. We do it proactively. In the same way, if we begin to honor food as proactive medicine, we give the prostate the best chance to remain resilient. So I leave you with this reminder. Your prostate does not exist in isolation. It listens to every signal you send it. And one of the clearest, loudest signals is the food you eat. Every tomato, every handful of nuts, every plate of vegetables is a message of health, of strength, of longevity. The power to protect and enhance your prostate is not locked away in a doctor's office. It sits in your kitchen, waiting for you to choose wisely. The question is simple, but profound when you sit down to your next meal. Will you eat to satisfy a craving, or will you eat to honor your future? because the answer may very well shape the quality of your life and the health of your prostate for years to come. When we talk about prostate wellness, diet is often the first focus, but just as vital, perhaps even more so in the long term, is movement. The body was designed to move, to stretch, to exert itself, and when that natural rhythm is broken, every system pays a price. The prostate is no exception. Too many men think of exercise only in terms of building muscle or controlling weight, but the truth is that physical activity speaks directly to the internal environment in which the prostate lives. It shapes circulation, it regulates hormones, it reduces stress, all of which are critical to protecting the small but essential gland. Think for a moment about circulation. Blood is life. It delivers oxygen, nutrients, and hormones to every cell. When we sit too long, when our lives become sedentary, circulation stagnates. For the prostate, which is nestled in an area of the body that already struggles with blood flow compared to more active muscles, this stagnation can mean trouble. It can mean congestion, inflammation, and eventually dysfunction. Now contrast that with movement, brisk walking, swimming, cycling, yoga. With every step, with every deep breath, the body pumps fresh, nutrient-rich blood to the pelvic region. That improves circulation nourishes the prostate, supports healthy tissue, and clears away inflammatory waste. This isn't abstract, it's biology responding to motion. Exercise also profoundly affects hormones. One of the leading contributors to prostate enlargement and disease is hormonal imbalance, particularly the rise of certain metabolites of testosterone that irritate the gland. Regular movement acts like a natural regulator. It helps maintain insulin sensitivity, lowers excess body fat, and balances stress hormones like cortisol. All of these ripple out into healthier testosterone metabolism. The man who moves consistently, who keeps his body engaged, is creating an internal hormonal environment that protects rather than punishes his prostate. And this is where philosophy meets physiology. Discipline in movement is not about vanity. It's about harmony, about keeping the orchestra of hormones in tune. And then there's inflammation. Modern medicine now understands inflammation as the silent driver behind so many chronic conditions: heart disease, diabetes, arthritis. The prostate, too, is incredibly vulnerable to this smoldering fire. Exercise, particularly consistent, moderate activity, is one of the body's most potent anti-inflammatories. Lowers inflammatory markers in the blood, strengthens immune function, and reduces oxidative stress. In other words, when you exercise, you are not just burning calories, you are extinguishing fires that would otherwise burn away your vitality. But beyond the physiology lies something deeper. The way exercise shapes the mind, movement clears mental fog, reduces anxiety, and builds resilience. Stress, we now know, is not just a psychological weight, it is a biological toxin. Elevated stress hormones alter blood flow, fuel inflammation, and disrupt sleep. All of these directly harm the prostate. A man who carries unresolved stress, who never moves his body to release it, is unwittingly pouring gasoline on the fire of prostate decline. By contrast, the man who walks daily, who practices deep breathing, who engages in stretching or mindful movement, is not only strengthening his muscles, but also disarming the stress that silently eats away at his health. There's also a symbolic truth here that's worth reflecting on. Movement is life. Stillness, in the long term, is decline. When a man chooses to move, whether that's lifting weights, gardening, or dancing, he is declaring to his body and to his prostate that life is still in motion, that energy still flows, that he is not surrendering to the slow creep of stagnation. It is as much a psychological declaration as a physical one. This does not mean you need to become an athlete in your later years. The goal is not marathon medals or six-pack abs. The goal is consistency, variety, and joy in movement. A brisk walk for 20 minutes most days of the week, light resistance training 2 or 3 times a week, stretching to maintain flexibility. These are simple, accessible habits that compound over time. And remember, the prostate thrives not in bursts of effort, but in sustained patterns of health. One intense workout followed by weeks of inactivity does little. Steady, regular movement tells the body and the prostate that balance is being maintained. And perhaps the most overlooked benefit of exercise for prostate wellness is sleep. Men who move regularly sleep more deeply, and deep sleep is when the body repairs, when hormones reset, when inflammation subsides. Poor sleep, often dismissed as a nuisance, is actually a powerful driver of prostate problems. Exercise, by restoring natural circadian rhythms, protects this vital pillar of health. So, here's the reality. You cannot separate movement from prostate health. They are inseparable, two sides of the same coin. Every time you choose the stairs over the elevator, every time you take a walk instead of reaching for the remote, every time you stretch instead of scrolling through your phone, You are investing in your prostate. You are choosing life over stagnation. I want you to carry this image with you. The prostate is like the roots of a tree. Without circulation, without balance, without care, those roots become congested, weak, and inflamed. But when life flows through them, through movement, through exercise, they remain strong, supple, and vital. The decision, then, is not about whether you have time to exercise. It's about whether you have time for health, for strength, for vitality. Because if you do not make time now, your body and your prostate will demand it later in ways you cannot ignore. So let me leave you with this thought. Every step you take is not just a step forward in space. It is a step forward in life. Move your body and you move your future. When we look at prostate wellness, diet and exercise often take center stage, and rightly so. But there's another often underestimated pillar of health that quietly shapes the fate of this gland: stress management. It might surprise you that something as intangible as your emotional state, your daily pressures, and the way you respond to life's challenges could directly affect a physical organ like the prostate. Yet, when we study the body as a whole, not just as isolated parts, it becomes clear that stress is not merely a state of mind. It is a biological storm with hormones, inflammatory molecules, and nervous system signals all converging to disrupt balance. And the prostate, sensitive as it is, often becomes collateral damage. Let's take a closer look at what stress really is. Imagine the body as a finely tuned orchestra. When stress enters, it's like a drummer playing out of rhythm, loud, relentless, and throwing the entire performance off balance. The primary culprit here is cortisol, the stress hormone. In small bursts, cortisol helps you survive. It sharpens focus, fuels quick responses, and gets you out of danger. But when cortisol becomes chronic, when modern life keeps you in a state of low-level fight or flight, the damage begins. Elevated cortisol interferes with testosterone, the hormone most intimately tied to the health of the prostate. It weakens immune surveillance, leaving tissues more vulnerable to inflammation and dysfunction. It also alters blood flow to the pelvic region, contributing to congestion and discomfort. That's the science. But think about it in simpler, more human terms. When you're stressed, your muscles tighten, your breathing shallows, your digestion slows. You carry this tension like armor. What most men don't realize is that the prostate feels this armor too. Stress is not just in your head, it lodges itself in your body, in tissues, in glands. Over time, this contributes to enlargement, inflammation, or worse. Now, here's the hopeful side of the story. Stress may be unavoidable, but its impact is not inevitable. The body comes equipped with tools to reset, to recalibrate, to shift from survival mode back into balance. Practices like deep breathing, meditation, mindfulness, or even spending time in nature activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and repair mode. This is the opposite of fight or flight. In this state, blood pressure lowers, inflammation decreases, and hormones rebalance. For the prostate, that means less congestion, less irritation, more stability. And it doesn't require hours of sitting in silence or retreating to a monastery. Just 5 minutes of intentional breathing, slowing down enough to actually feel your breath filling your lungs, can shift your biology in a measurable way. A walk outdoors without your phone can lower cortisol more effectively than many medications. Prayer, gratitude journaling, meaningful conversation, these are all stress regulators disguised as simple human acts. What's powerful is not the complexity of the practice, but the consistency. There's also an emotional truth here worth addressing. Men are often taught to push through, to carry burdens without complaint, to equate stillness with weakness. But ignoring stress doesn't make it disappear, it buries it deeper. And buried stress always finds its way out, sometimes through the heart, sometimes through sleep, sometimes through the prostate. Prostate issues in many men become not just a reflection of aging, but a reflection of years of unprocessed stress, years of silence, years of carrying weight alone. If we reframe stress management as a form of strength rather than fragility, everything changes. Choosing to pause, to breathe, to care for the inner self is not indulgence, it's discipline of the highest form. It's saying, I will not allow my environment to dictate my biology. I choose balance. That mindset transforms not just the prostate, but the man as a whole. We also cannot ignore the link between stress and lifestyle behaviors. Stress often drives overeating, drinking, lack of sleep, all of which compound prostate problems. It becomes a vicious cycle. Stress weakens the gland, symptoms create more stress, and the spiral continues. Breaking this cycle requires awareness. It requires catching yourself in the moment and choosing a healthier outlet. That could be exercise, creative expression, or something as simple as stepping outside and grounding yourself in the present. Philosophically, stress reminds us of an eternal truth. Life is not about control, but about response. We cannot eliminate every pressure, every demand, every uncertainty, but we can choose how to carry them. And the body, in its wisdom, mirrors that choice. A man who constantly fights life finds his body fighting itself. A man who learns to release, to adapt, to breathe, his body, including his prostate, reflects that peace. So the takeaway here is clear: stress is not invisible and its impact is not abstract. It is written in the cells of your prostate, in the hormones that course through your blood, in the way you sleep at night. If you care for this gland, you must care for your mind. If you wish to protect your body, you must protect your peace. Let me leave you with this thought: every breath you take in calm awareness is medicine. Every moment you choose presence over panic, peace over pressure, you are not just soothing your mind, you are preserving your vitality. The prostate is listening, quietly responding to the life you choose to live.